If somebody were to ask me, are you a Christian? I would say no. That wasn't me. No, that wasn't me.
Faith in God makes you so weird.
I said, God, why would you do this to me?
I really didn't know what the future held, which isn't contrary to what you went through, right, Tony?
I know what the Lord had told me, but I didn't know what to do with this situation.
Those moments of like maybe doubting that this was God's will.
And yes, I was pretty disappointed, I was pretty confused.
Well, if me one look stupid and build the ark, when everybody else know that there is no way.
Brought me, out of darkness and into his marvelous light.
Boy, that testimony speaks volumes to me
Yeah.
just about the relationship that you had with God.
I remember a few years ago just wanting to do things my own way. I was into a lot of partying and drinking. I started to feel this uneasiness. Something's not right. What is the true meaning to life? What is truth? And so I remember just starting my journey of research. And so of course I came across Christianity. Now a lot of the persons like to say, well, the Bible said this and the Bible said that. Well, why don't I read it for myself? And I read it with the intention of wanting to find holes, because I was so smart. And boy, would you know, the Bible really started to convict me. I found myself becoming very uneasy with life as I knew it. Even though I was becoming very uneasy, all of the things that I wanted start to come my way, such as opportunities as a professional dancer to be recognized within the industry. So that started to happen, but I didn't have a desire for it anymore. So a lot of those moments started to happen where I would slowly lose my desire to party. What was strange was that even though I'd purchased my carnival costume on the day of Road March, I just felt super uncomfortable. I couldn't do it. I was not interested in the things that weren't of God. And this kind of happened for about a year, me just feeling uneasy with, the things that I was doing. I just didn't have a desire for it anymore. There was a time when I got ill. I had an inner ear problem and it was affecting my balance to the point where I wasn't able to walk for an entire week. When I went to the doctor said that this is something that could potentially clear up on its own within a few weeks or months, and I was so upset. I was upset like I brought this to God. I said, God, why would you do this to me? If I cannot walk, it means I cannot dance. And you know that dance means everything to me. And then the stillest small voice said, well, dance can't be your everything now, can it? And at that point, I realized that God needed to be in the place where dance was, in the place where my career was, in the place where everything that, was important to me. He needed to be number one. And so in my room, I pretty much gave my life to the Lord. I said, God, I want you to be the king of my life. So the very next day I was healed miraculously. Of course, that was God's plan all along. But I didn't forget what I had said to him the night before. It was something I did in secret, but God was about to test me. I went to dance practice with the old dance company I was with, and I started to feel very uneasy with the moves and the choreography that I had no problem dancing before. And so the Holy Spirit was just reminding me, you are not your own anymore. You belong to God. And so I pulled the director aside and I told her that, I'm now a Christian. I'm not exactly perfect, but this was something I could no longer do. And I was crying. I remember crying, but it was tears of joy because I couldn't believe that I was just throwing the most important thing, the thing that was the most important thing to me at the time. I was just throwing it away. And I didn't mind because I knew I had God, and so I had everything. I had Jesus. Once you have Jesus, you have everything.
How was it for you though leaving the dance company? Because you said that it was something that you were kind of like working on. It was like your dream. It was like your dream, and then it's just like
Not your dream.
On that day, it was just so strange because it's not like I woke up that day thinking I'm gonna end it all right now. It was just while I was in the moment, Holy Spirit was revealing that I needed to surrender all aspects of my life. And so in that moment, I felt that burning desire to really, approach my dance director and say, I have now accepted Jesus Christ.
That must have been so annoying.
I thought I could accept Christ and sort of live a private Christian life. Not necessarily telling anybody like, oh, I'm now a Christian. But the truth of the matter is if you accept Christ, you accept his ways, you accept his wisdom. And so if he was telling me that this was not his plan, then I clearly needed to communicate that with other persons around me. Like the fact that when you are a Christian, there's a certain level of confessing that needs to happen. You have to confess Christ as Lord. Yeah.
That's interesting because even though I wasn't a Christian, there came a point where I decided to become like have a real relationship with God, and that meant having to say goodbye to that world. But I read Charity. I never really had the courage to do a Charity. I was just like, oh boy, I live far. My parents said them can't pick me up anymore. Sorry, I can't come back. Because I was just like, oh boy, I have schoolwork, exams. Sorry, can't, cut off everything with lies, like many lies, But I mean, no, I can't be like, that's not my thing. I just wasn't talking.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I give you no.
Actually, I'm gonna confess, I wasn't even that courageous telling my friends. I remember me not really going to parties anymore, them asking, how comes we don't see you? And I'd make a bogus excuse like, oh, I think I need to start being financially responsible, stop going to parties, I need to think about my financial future. And so eventually I had to start telling them, I'm a Christian.
I think what gets me about your testimony that I have to try and wrap my mind around is the whole thing of you not having, you weren't raised in a Christian family, so it wasn't something you're familiar with. The idea of not knowing God and then feeling the conviction of the Holy Spirit is something that it excites me when I hear it, but I can't wrap my mind around it. Yeah. Because in my head I'm going, Shari, you couldn't just toss the thing out of your head, it wasn't really there. Yeah. Especially with the carnival costume, you bought the carnival costume from last year, and the day before, not even a month before, so you could have sell it. The day before,
you could have sell it.
Yep.
The day before, every time I hear you say that in my mind, I'd be like, all right, God, let's jump carnival. And then we can talk about this next day, or I'll check if it's really the Lord. That part of it really stands out to me. But when I thought about it, I also thought that Abraham didn't know God. And he packed up everything that God can just interfere. Yeah. As in just be like, all right, cut the foolishness and let's start getting on track.
True.
What I was going to add to was that you were alone. You didn't have.
I didn't have any Christian
friends or anybody saying, "Sure, come to church with me."
No, it was really just having a faith in God that enabled me to make that step. I really didn't know what the future held, which isn't contrary to what you went through, right, Tony?
I was literally just listening to you say that, and I'm just like, faith in God makes you so weird. A few years after I'd started working, I had told the Lord, 2 years actually, that I would want to do my master's. When we got to the 2-year point, the Lord told me that next year. So I used the year to really aggressively save towards this program, so it's less stress on me, the money will be there, it's the financially responsible thing to do. Based on the situation I was in at the time, saving would have been much easier than after the master's started. Anyhow, that time came, I applied, I had not heard from UWI. And when I went to check on it, they had told me that we have no evidence of you applying. We don't think, they most confidently told me that I had not applied. However, I had not lost the receipt when you submit your documents. And so I showed it to them and they said, well, we see the receipt, but we don't have you here on record. At this point, I let go the dream of getting my master's done that year. And yes, I was pretty disappointed. I was pretty confused. I know what the Lord had told me. But I didn't know what to do with this situation. Anyway, I had also felt that it was about time to move out. So what I figured is, well, probably the Lord wants me to just move out this year. Maybe he has pushed it to the next year again. Because, I mean, that's the most sense I could have made out of it. So I was now moving out on my own for the first time. After that money was done, I got an acceptance letter from UA, and I now had no money to go to school. I was just like, God, this doesn't make any sense. And he said to me, you are going to go. You have forgotten how I do things. You don't save up your money and plan your life to make it convenient. There's no glory in that for me. That is all you. And we're now going to go. We're now ready to go and do your master's because you have no choice but to depend on me. He also went on to say, this journey that we're going to do is going to be me and you. I will choose who I may want to bless you through during this time, but it's not something that you and your mother are coming into with me. You are going to learn to stand on your own with me. You're going to take no loan for this. All of that made no sense because when I went to even go on the payment plan for the program, the amount I was committing to pay each month was more than I made each month. So let us think about that. I must pay you more than I get. In addition to that, I must pay rent, maintain my car, and live. But the Lord said this is what he was going to do, and from my history with him, this is what I'm going to do. So I really stepped out in faith, and it was most frightening. I know what Peter felt like when he walked on water, where it is that God has given you a word and you're stepping out, but it is so crazy. All your warning signs of your brain are going off to tell you that you're going out of your mind, kind of a thing. But I did this thing, and I remember there were semesters where 2 days to the exams, the fees had not been paid. I studied because I knew nobody was going to stop me from going into that exam. It was God's plan that 2 days the fees had not been paid, and he really stretched my faith that I had no time to sit and, boy, I better pull out of this, boy, this don't look like it can be done. But I finished my master's. I owed no money at the end of it. God came through in miraculous ways. One really berserk way that he did it, I had exams coming up shortly, and I was studying like crazy, and up until that point I had not paid my fees. I had come to this dependency on God that I would sometimes say, God, I'm going to check my bank account to see if you put the money in it yet. And I would go log in, check my account, see the amount I know was in there, and go, oh, all right, you don't put this in there yet, I'll check back tomorrow. And I used to do that. And I remember one day I was studying and I stopped and I said, God, it's a few days to the exam and the fee's not paid. I go and check my account. And I mean, I really honestly would check it with all confidence that I had some money in there that I never put in there. And I remember one day I went and I did. And I saw the school fee in my account. No, I started screaming. I thought it was a trick my parents had played on me. And I went and I told them. They had no idea where the money had come from. Long story short, a very elderly lady had said she wanted to give my mother a gift because my mother had supported her through a rough time. So she gave the lady my account, thinking the lady was going to put in like a gas money. And that lady paid my school fee that year. And it was things like, that was just one instance, but it was things like that that God did. And I learned to depend on God in a way that I had never done before. And one of the things I ensured that I did during this time was that I ensured that I paid my tithes. So even in the lack of money, that was the priority payment every month. It was just another way that God showed that he was extremely faithful to me. It's an encouragement to anybody that even when it looks super, super crazy, that God is faithful. And if you are willing to risk your life, he will honor that. What gets me about that time though, I can't think of any other time where for whatever reason I trusted God to that extent. But I guess I can relate to what you're saying, where I knew
Yeah.
I was supposed to go forward and do this thing in this time.
Yeah.
And exactly how the Lord said I should have done it.
Right.
So how you knew that you knew that you knew? Because for me, all the different things that you talked about, the different obstacles, when you finally move out on your own and the money done, and then them come accept me into school. Like I said, boy, I'm writing right now, I'm deferring until next year because I'm gonna need a year to accumulate some money. And then even so, you got in, and then 2 days before exam, no money don't come. Boy, I'm deferring until next
Right.
year. Like,
No, because God cannot do a start and stop.
Right.
Even if you think it's a start and stop,
Yeah.
until you get another word that says go this way or go that way, like Abram did, you keep going according to the last word that you heard. To be honest, I think the money got used for what the Lord wanted it to be used for. Because like I said, I was supposed to be moving out. But in my head, school was more important. So I'm just going to do this and you do whatever. The Lord was just like, yeah, so great. Proud of you. You saved this money.
Yeah.
Move out. Look at that. Good job. Now on to the other things that we're dealing with.
with this, in terms of the school, there was no backup plan. Your parents don't own the cattle of 1,000 hills to be like, oh, we'll just sell a couple goats and send you off to do your to do your master's program. That's not how that works.
Nope.
So it was like a jump and live or jump and die.
I have depended on my mother a lot when I do these faith jumps, because this is probably the reason I'm like this. But at the same time, it's almost like the Lord was saying, you're going to learn about me for yourself.
Yeah.
Boy, that testimony speaks volumes to me.
Yeah.
Just about the relationship that you had with God, because you had to know that that was God's voice.
Yeah.
If I didn't hear that from somebody else, I'd be like, what you drink this morning? You eat too much before you go to bed last night? No.
For a moment, I did second guess myself.
Yeah.
For a moment, I did. But then I was like, again, we can't come so far, and then all of a sudden, God is inadequate.
You have to be willing to say, boy, no God, if it's me and you are going down alone, it's me and you going down alone.
Yeah.
This was your moment to stand up on the faith that you had in God, not
Yeah.
stand up on the past
mother's
experience,
faith, yeah.
but you needed this experience for yourself.
Yeah.
And it just comes back to that real relationship that you had with God. So